Let's be honest. In the business world, we are swimming in numbers. But are they actually helping us, or are they just a source of confusion? Well, today we're going to tame those numbers. We're going to look at how some basic statistics can help you stop guessing and start making some really smart, confident decisions.
So ask yourself this. Every day at work, you've got charts, you've got reports, you've got data coming at you from all sides. But when the pressure's really on, how often do we kind of fall back on our gut feeling instead of the hard facts? The whole goal here is to bridge that gap, to make sure our instincts are actually backed up by solid evidence. All right, first up, decisions, decisions. Let's start with the big why. Why does any of this statistic stuff even matter? You'll see pretty quickly, it's not about abstract math, it's about solving real-world business problems.
I mean, think about these for a second. These are the kinds of high-stakes questions that managers are dealing with constantly. Is a 13.7% return really better than 10.1%, or could that just be random noise? Is your new ad campaign actually bringing in customers, or do you just feel like it is? Can you seriously bet the company's budget on a survey that claims 57% of customers are going to switch? See, at their core, these are all statistical questions.
So to get solid answers to those questions, you can't just glance at the numbers and call it a day. You've really got to speak their language. And that language, well, it all starts with just a few foundational terms.
So, that brings us to Section 2, the language of data. Getting these key terms right is, no joke, the biggest first step toward thinking like a real statistician.
Okay, first up, we've got the population. Now this is the big picture. And it's not just about people, it's the entire group you want to know something about. Think of it as the whole universe for your question. Like, for example, every single one of your potential customers. Now, obviously, trying to study an entire population is often impossible or just way, way too expensive. So what do? We take a sample. And a sample is just what it sounds like. It's a manageable slice, a smaller, specific group that you can actually collect data from, like the 1,000 people you managed to survey.
Here is a perfect way to think about it. Imagine a giant pot of soup. That whole pot, that's your population. Now, you don't need to eat the entire thing to know if you've added enough salt, right? Of course not. You just need a sample, a single spoonful. And that spoonful tells you about the entire pot. That's the real power of good sampling.
Okay, next term you gotta know, parameter. A parameter is a number that describes the entire population. It's the true value, the real deal answer that you're actually searching for, like the actual average age of all your customers. The tricky part, you usually don't know this number. It's kind of the mystery you're trying to solve. And that's where the statistic comes in to save the day. A statistic is a number that describes your sample. It's the value you can actually calculate from the data you've gathered, for instance, the average age of just the customers you surveyed. We use this statistic to make an educated guess to estimate that mysterious parameter. And this difference is absolutely critical. So here's a super easy way to remember it. Parameter describes the population, statistic describes the sample. See? P goes with P, S goes with S. One is the unknown truth we're chasing. The other is the known clue we can actually measure. Okay, one last bit of language, I promise. The data you collect basically comes in two main flavors. First, you have qualitative or categorical data. This stuff describes qualities, things like hair color, brand names, or simple yes-no answers. Then you have quantitative data, and that's all about the numbers, things you can count or measure like weight, cost, or the number of sales. On to Section 3. Getting the right data. So now that we have the vocabulary down, how do we get data that we can actually trust? Well, it all comes down to how you collect it. Let's go back to our soup analogy. If you only take your spoonful from the very top, you might miss all the good spices that sank to the bottom, right? It is exactly the same with data. The way you choose your sample, your spoonful, is going to determine whether your conclusions are accurate or completely misleading. To avoid getting biased results, the absolute key is to sample randomly. And here are 4 common ways to do that. You've got simple random, which is just like drawing names out of a hat. Everyone has an equal chance. Then there's stratified sampling. This is more targeted. You make sure you get the right proportion from key groups, like maybe 20% from each sales region. With cluster sampling, you randomly pick whole groups, like 3 different retail stores, and survey everyone inside them. And finally, systematic sampling is pretty straightforward. Just pick, say, every 10th person off a customer list.
Look, this isn't just some academic exercise. The source material puts it really bluntly. Collecting data carelessly can have devastating results. Bad data leads to bad decisions, and those decisions can be incredibly, incredibly costly. All right, our final section, a more critical eye. We've got the terms, we know why sampling is so important, so now let's put it all together and see what it looks like in action.
We're going to circle right back to that business question we had earlier about the customer survey. This is where knowing the right vocabulary completely changes how you see the results.
So here's the scenario again. An online survey of 1,000 people, that's our sample, finds that 57% of them would switch to your product. So what is that 57%? Is it a statistic or is it a parameter? Think about it for a second.
If you said statistic, you are absolutely right. You nailed it. It's a statistic because that 57% describes the property of the sample you surveyed, those 1,000 people. It's not the parameter, which would be the true percentage of all of your competitors' customers.
And this, right here, brings us to the central challenge of all of statistics. The number you have, that statistic, is just an estimate. The real business question, the one that could be worth millions, is this. How well does that 57% from your sample actually reflect the true parameter for the entire population? Answering that question, well, that's the key to turning raw data into real wisdom.